We are here at the legendary 17th hole at TPC Sawgrass, home of the Players Championship. Meet John and Pete and their special guests and enjoy 4 days of VIP access March 10th through the 13th. It's going to include 2 days of live trading with all the Market Rebellion analysts. You're going to get to meet John, Pete, and special guests. We do have limited seats. There's only 10 seats available. Sign up below. Make sure you get here. We want to see you at the Players Championship.
Hello, this is Pete Najarian. Good morning, I should say. Another wild ride. The rides continue. Yesterday, again, markets actually started off relatively quiet for a Monday morning. And before you know it, all of a sudden, as we get into the afternoon, the acceleration of a lot of volatility in the marketplace, all focused this time on just one matter, and that is what's going on with Russia and Ukraine. And that certainly did affect markets. As a matter of fact, markets really started to hit to the downside. Matter of fact, you look over at the Dow, down over 400 points on the lower end of things, did actually recover towards the end of the day and actually finished down about 170 points. So paired it off by better than half from some of those lows. On the other hand, you look over at the NASDAQ, didn't get hit quite to the same extent, but it was getting hit as well. It was down about 120 points, actually recovered all the way to finish very close to flat. And very interesting, we had volatility all over the place, of course. We had a really wide range, 28 to 32. That says a lot. That's expecting a 2% move each and every day from the S&P 500. Just remember that. But we did close off of those highs. As a matter of fact, closed near that 28 level. We were about 28.30 on the close. The volumes, surprisingly, were a little bit light, relatively speaking, actually, especially coming off some huge volume days recently, and we actually finished at about 39 million contracts. Not one single stock actually penetrated through to trade more than 1 million contracts yesterday. I thought that was pretty fascinating because 39 million contracts trading, and we didn't have your usuals of Apple or Tesla or an AMD or something actually piercing through that million crack. So that was something very interesting. Obviously, the spike in crude yesterday, that was really been the barometer of what's been going on in terms of this whole conflict and what's going on with Russia and Ukraine. That certainly has been the area that everybody looks to is crude oil, 94, 95. Those were the levels we were. Significantly less today, but we'll get into that in just a second. So we covered the volatility. We had a lot of different sectors moving, and obviously energy being pretty interesting because it did back off. And as it backed off, it was actually finishing the day down more than 2%. Then you had the financials down about 1%. You look at healthcare, that was down 1%. You looked across, and there were times where the Dow, it seemed like just about everything was getting pushed to the downside. Consumer discretionary, however, that actually finished in positive territory by about 0.6%. That was pretty impressive. That shocked me to see that. But some of the names that are in that category certainly had a pretty good day. Technology actually finished very close to flat, but we did have some good performance yesterday. Not everything was getting sold off. We didn't end up with such a harsh sell-off either. But you look at Tesla. Tesla was down, up a couple of percent. Then you look over at Expedia. That was up better than 2.5%. Then you look at Las Vegas Sands. Some of the areas in the marketplace where we were seeing some really nice productive moves to the upside. Splunk, with that rumor that was going on, or at least the chatter, I should say, that was going on, up about 9% yesterday. That Lucid, which has been up and down and mostly down of late, but starting to see a little bit of momentum to the upside. You had Tesla positive. Lucid actually finished up about 6%. Netflix chipped in as well. On the other side of things, though, you look at a name like Moderna, down 12%. That was telling. Then you look at those beta energy names. You know, you're looking at the price of crude, and then all of a sudden you scratch your head a little bit. You look at some of these beta energy names. They were getting slammed pretty good yesterday. Names like Halliburton, and throw in Marathon Oil, also chuck in Occidental and APA and Diamondback. You get the idea. Across the board, a little bit of pressure there for those stocks that all seem to be somewhere involved in the XOP or the XLE or somewhere in those energy ETFs. certainly seeing a lot of movement there. You had Walgreens Boots, that was down a little bit. We won't be saying Boots for very long, it doesn't sound like. Datadog down a couple of percent, even IBM down a couple of percent. So a lot of pulling on the markets, definitely coming from different parts of different sectors. There's no doubt about that. So today, all of a sudden, things are a lot different. A lot changed overnight. It's looked like the Russians may be backing off, a little bit of maybe gamesmanship that's going on there. Who knows? But the tensions certainly did at least give a little bit of a relief. And suddenly we're up 350 points to start off the day. We're up 250 points on the NASDAQ to start off the day. And we've been progressively adding to that, at least on the Dow. The Dow's been 350, then it was a little less than that, but then moved up. It was up over 440 points to the upside. Last time I looked, we were up about 350, 370. And then you look over at NASDAQ, still holding some gains, but up about 200 points. It had been a little bit higher than that, but it's been shifting around, but a little less volatile actually for the NASDAQ than it has been for the Dow. The 10-year, yes, we're talking about that 2 level once again, 2%. You look at volatility index, 2560 rather to 28. And here we are much closer to that lower side, but still holding somewhere above 26 on the volatility index. So still in that area that a lot of the time we refer to as no man's land. You get up into those 30s, those are the times where we've talked about many, many times. That's where the reactions come. That's where you're looking for the shopping lists and using that implied volatility. That's oftentimes what John and myself do each and every day. If that moves that way, if it's also in the teens, a lot more aggressive with the options themselves. So we haven't seen teens for a little while. As a matter of fact, we've been a little bit closer to that mid-20s to low 30s area, which means a lot more different types of opportunities out there, some spreads and so forth. Consumer prices. Again, we've been talking about this inflation topic for a really long time. We've heard that transitory word for a really long time. And yet here we are once again at 40-year highs for the CPI. So that does say a lot for where we are right now. The Fed will be watching a lot of things very closely, the actions and what kind of hikes that might be needed to be made, whether they're going to be larger or more or both. That's a lot of the debate that's been going on. There's no doubt about that. Intel was some pretty interesting story today, which is acquisition of Tower, which is one of these names that's out there in the chip maker side of things. That could be pretty interesting for them. It looks like about a $5 billion deal and a pretty decent percentage in terms of how much percent they're paying over where it was. I think it was something close to 50 or so percent to the upside. So certainly something that they really seem to have wanted. And that's obviously, if you listen to the storyline through the CEO, it's been talking about, the manufacturing of chips more and more and more, and the dollars that are being put out there across the country to make this all happen. So consumer discretionary, having a really good day once again. Technology, having a great day once again. Financials, participating very nicely as well. Take a look at 10-year, actually going back into that movement together. Energy was worse. It was down almost 3% or so early on and actually started to recover a little bit. We've seen the price of crude get all the way down towards 89 and then bouncing back a little bit, at least down closer to 91. That's a nearly 5% move to the downside, though. So that's a pretty significant move, even with a little recovery off of those lows. So the movers that we are seeing right now, we're talking airlines, American, United, Delta, Alaska, all of those been a pretty good day. You look at the cruise ships, you look at something like Norwegian Cruise Lines having a really nice day. The semiconductors, the SMH, many of those names within that having a great day as well. Marvell, NVIDIA, NXPI. These are all names that we are seeing. And as a matter of fact, we're seeing some option activity in some of the names as well. Not names necessarily that I mentioned, but some of those names as well. We are seeing some of that activity. You look at Boeing having a great day moving the Dow. Then you look at Nike, a nice rebound day as well. Then Disney, 2.5% or so to the upside, having a really, really nice bounce back day for many of these names in the Dow. So got a couple of unusuals, then we're out of here. I will be doing some radio later on today at WCCO. They'll have a great streaming app as well. It's going to be live streaming. That's going to be at about 12:45, maybe 1:45, I guess, East Coast time. Should be a lot of fun. Chad Hartman, whose father was an absolute legend in the journalism side of sports for a very, very long period of time. Chad does a great job himself hosting this show. So looking forward to joining him. So no halftime for me today. You will see me tomorrow on the halftime. So early on, we saw a lot of interesting activity going on and trying to make the decision on which names. Actually, we waited a little while till we got right here next to it. So As we're doing this, we just added Apple. Now, Apple's really, really interesting because we know about Apple. We know some of the mega cap that's had a little bit of pressure on it of late, but we're also seeing a little bit of a bounce right now. Apple trading right around 171. So out of the 160s, right around 171, a little bit more than that. 10,000 of the March 4th expiring 177.5 calls being purchased. 10,000 of those for a little over $1. Nice, good, big trade. Looking for Apple to make a pretty decent move and buying a little bit of time as well, because we're still haven't even gotten through the normal cycle of February expiration. And they're actually moving all the way, not just to the end of February, but actually pushing into March. So that's interesting and buying a little bit of time. The next one I've got for you is Uber. Now, Uber's hit on many times. We haven't seen a lot of success with this one, but what we are seeing today is a little bit of a follow through of some rolling that we are seeing in Uber. And I thought that was pretty interesting. Stock's trading about 35.25. We have a buyer of the February 25th. So that gives you a little extra time, week and a half, let's call it. February 25th, the 35.5 call. So it's basically right on top of where the stock is right now. 7,500 of those were purchased, around $1.25 is what was being paid. On top of that, they were buying the 36.5 strike calls. On top of that, we are seeing that being rolled out a little bit from an option that was going to be expiring this Friday and actually buying a little bit more time. So a lot going on within this trade itself, but definitely as you look across it and a little bit of a hedge to the upside as well, selling the 40s against these 35.5s. What we are really looking at here is not expecting this stock to fly to the upside, but to make a nice move to the upside. That's what these options are saying, at least. A move to the upside that's going to penetrate through these levels and get up maybe somewhere close to 40, possibly. That's what we're looking at right now. Really interesting trade, a lot of different pieces to that puzzle, but long and short of it is they're buying the 35.5 calls, and they bought 7,500 of those for February 25th. Folks, have a great day of trading. Look forward to seeing you tomorrow, and it's going to be a busy day. If you get a chance, check in on that WCCO streaming. Should be a lot of fun with Chad Hartman.